This is one of my favorite topics in epidemiology. We talked before that you get a name or a label of some sort of concept. I remember I was talking once and someone said alcohol causes lung cancer. And I didn't really understand it. And then I realized, oh, maybe the people who drink a lot also smoke a lot. Drinking and smoking go really well together. Maybe it's actually the smoking that causes the lung cancer, and that the effect is sort of confounded or mixed up or blurred together. Now, multiple linear regression is going to allow us to adjust for or control for confounding. You'll learn a lot about this in epidemiology, but we'll do a brief overview of it here in statistics. Imagine you work for a brewing company, not Guinness like we saw before, but imagine you work for Joseph Schlitz, the beer that made Milwaukee famous. This is a great beer. They used to see people sit around in bars all day and drink beer and don't get any exposure to the sun and don't have enough vitamin D. So, okay, we'll put the vitamin D right in the beer called the sunshine beer. Imagine you see some new data that people who drink beer have a higher risk of heart disease. Well, that seems a little counterintuitive. We think, at least the time that I'm recording this in 2020, that a little bit of alcohol might actually be good for the heart. Increase your HDL cholesterol, vasodilator, so on. Why would it be that the more people drink, the higher risk of heart disease they have? And it's because people who drink compared to people who don't drink, they do other things, and they don't do other things that might be related to heart disease. You can probably think of what these things are. There's a space right here. And this space, we can fill it with the list of what are called confounding variables. This is known as the confounding triangle. Is there something you can think of that is an independent risk factor for heart disease, something that can lead to your heart disease, but it also goes along very well with alcohol? If it does, maybe it's that variable that's carrying the relationship and not the beer itself. So when we ask, how is alcohol related to heart disease, maybe we need to control. And Tony, are you cooking anything today?
I am. I've got food in the crock pot.
What's in the crock pot?
Pork shoulder.
I thought I smelled something. So there are some foods that go very well with alcohol that can increase your risk for heart disease. I was going to say bratwurst. Beer and bratwurst go so well together. What causes what? Is it that you're drinking a beer and you see a grill? Oh, I want to have some of that. Or is it that you're eating a bratwurst and you could really quench your thirst? It doesn't really matter. This arrow is a two-headed arrow that just tells us in this data set, these two things run along together. And this thing, whatever this confounder is a risk factor for this. Now, from a study design perspective, we can think of lots of different ways to control for confounding. You might do something like, let's limit our study to only vegans. Vegans don't eat any bratwurst at all. So anything that has to do with their alcohol, we would see it wouldn't be confounded by their meat consumption. Or we might do a study where we do matching. Every person that we get who drinks beer and eats meat, we match them with someone who doesn't drink beer and eats meat. Or we might do something such as, let's see, the first one I said was restriction. We restricted only the vegans. The second one I said was you would match. Oh, the other thing we could do is we could do randomization. Think about fifth, fourth, sixth grade science when you learned about, when you do a study, what you should do in science, where you take a bunch of plants and you play music to them, maybe some Metallica, and then another bunch of plants, and you play Mozart to them. How do you decide which plant gets which music? Random allocation or randomization. Randomization is important. They didn't tell you this in science fair, but randomization gets rid of this area. Let's get a bunch of people who drink beer and a bunch of people who don't, and then we'll randomize some of them to eat meat and some of them to not. You couldn't do that. It'd be a little unethical probably, but it would eliminate that idea of confounding. Now, in the analysis phase of a study, you can control for confounding by doing that multiple regression. Remember, when you're in that room and all those babies are hovering around you and they're oriented such that when you go this way, they might increase because of gestational age. And when you go this way, things might change because of maternal age. When you increase one of those variables, you stay in your own lane with respect to the other variable. You hold that variable constant. And that's what multiple regression does. It holds potential confounding variables constant. So when you read a study that has controlled for confounding by using multiple regression, you'll see some phrases like this. I have another exclamation point. This is the only way to properly interpret a slope in a multiple regression. What is the effect of X on Y holding the other variables constant? We're going to go back to the example of the babies and see what is the effect of maternal age on birth length after adjusting for, after controlling for, after accounting for gestational age. Anytime you see a study that's done on free-range human beings, I want you to think about confounders. Here's a study a student sent me. Prostate cancer as an outcome, whole body vibration as an exposure. And this is whole body vibration like someone who drives a semi-truck, or they're a helicopter pilot, or they operate a jackhammer, or they drive a forklift for their job. What are some variables that might go along with this that could be related to prostate cancer? How is this guy different from you? Does he do things that are potentially related to his prostate cancer risk? If so, those are potential confounders, and we need to control for them in the study. So think about that for a little bit before we meet. What are some potential confounders in the relationship between this outcome and this exposure?